This week on Motorcycle Experience, our ultimate ride to Manitoulin continues as we celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary of Confederation. And speaking of truly Canadian, during this week's Red Adventure stop in Origin8or, Ontario, Toni Sharpless takes a closer look at your helmet. Our chief riding instructor Jenn is in the house, but first she's got to get safely through the parking lot. While over in the garage, Origin8or Custom Cycles builder Rob Chappell is dumping the stock pipe on our project motorcycle. All this and more on Motorcycle Experience. Hello and welcome to Motorcycle Experience, the voice of motorcyclists everywhere. I'm Dave Hatch, and this week we're coming to you from the trendy neighborhood of Abbot Kinney in Los Angeles, California. And the reason we're here? Well, we're attending the press launch of the brand new Honda Rebel. As for our show this week, well, you know it's jam-packed, so let's get right to it. Behold the Honda NC750X, an inline twin-powered middleweight machine designed by Honda to deliver the perfect all-round motorcycle experience. Kind of a one-size-fits-all approach to motorcycling. Now, on the surface, I know that perhaps sounds a little bland, but in fact, last year the NC750X was one of Honda's best-selling brands in Europe. And I kinda get it. I mean, after all, the NC's super smooth fuel-injected twin delivers amazing fuel economy. Plus, the bike's low center of gravity, thanks to the underseat fuel cell, makes it a dream to ride at slow speeds. Then there's the comfortable, adventure-ready boots-under-your-butt upright riding position, the nicely balanced suspension setup, plus there's one last ingredient in Honda's secret sauce, and that's their optional DCT transmission. Select this and you can paddle shift the NC750X yourself, or better still, let the auto transmission do the work for you with one of its 3 shifting modes. Joining us now with his impression of the NC750X is a serious touring rider with over 400,000 kilometers under his belt. Here's Ken Enoch. So Ken, we've had quite a ride today, and you've had a lot of time to get used to this motorcycle. What was your first impression?
I don't know what the words are I want to use for it. It's awesome on so many planes, and yet it won't excel in any one of them.
Right.
But it addresses so many issues, more than a lot of bikes I've ridden before.
Now this is the NC750X. It has a DCT transmission, so no clutch lever, no shift lever. It's kind of a weird thing to experience at first, right?
Honestly, of all the bikes I've ridden and I've worked with you for a number of years, this is the first time I've had an automatic, and my left hand, my left foot have filed for unemployment. They had nothing to do, and it's the hardest thing to stop using them or stop having them do what you just do naturally.
Yeah. Well, let's come back to that in a second. Let's talk about the motor. First of all, it's a parallel twin, but it's uber smooth, and Honda designed it to be uber fuel efficient.
It is. It's incredible where the power band comes on. You do not have to wind this out to get good acceleration. And it's smooth. For the size of it, when you think that in 1969 a 750 was the biggest engine there was, when you look at this bike from behind, it's incredibly nimble small.
Yeah. You were able to put the fuel delivery to the test, and you said it was really sipping gas.
It is, it's incredible. I mean, I have been putting it through its paces, trying out the different transmission modes and 0 to 60 startups, et cetera, and I still managed 3.3 liters per 100 kilometers. I can't get my head around that, but I think that's over 60 miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
However, you can also push a button and do real-time fuel, and if I level off at 90K, it's sipping at 1.9 liters per 100 kilometers. It's like a Camel.
So we started out by talking about the fact that there was no clutch lever, no shift lever. So tell us about the riding experience with the dual clutch transmission.
It's cool. There's safety into it, that as soon as you turn on the key, there's electronics that go into it, but it does put it into neutral. So as you turn on the key, like on any other bike, you're looking for the green light to tell you're in neutral. Up here, there's a selector switch between labeling neutral and drive and sport.
Right.
And basically, as long as you're wanting a neutral position, That'll give you the green light. That'll allow you to start up.
Right. Then you select the D or the S.
Right.
And off you go. And this thing is just shifting the gears as you accelerate.
And it's so amazing too, because in a car with an automatic transmission, if you come to a stop, you still have to hold the brakes on.
Right.
This thing has an idle speed that it won't go anywhere until you just start the engine up. And if you listen to it, somebody's going to swear you're working a clutch. It sounds like you're feathering the clutch off the takeoff, and it's just roll on smooth from that point on.
Right.
But its goal is to get into the top gear as quick as possible. That's where it gets its fuel mileage from.
Right. Just the overall riding experience. I found it very quiet and very smooth. That's the comment that keeps coming back to me. And comfortable. What did you think of the riding experience?
It's user friendly for the seat up position. I'm not into the sport bike crouch. I'm a Goldwing rider. I'm used to being very upright, and it's just a natural fall to the grips, I think, for most people. You don't feel hunched. The air deflection from the improved windshield is just enough to take that brunt off your chest, but I just found it was a natural riding position I wanted to be in, and ergonomically everything fit, and I'm 6 foot.
Right. You were really going crazy with me about this compartment here. You love this, eh?
This is amazing. I mean, when everybody thinks this should be the gas tank, how they've been able to maneuver all those components somewhere else and give you a compartment that I can put my full face helmet in. Most times when you hear about saddlebags or trunks or whatever, you might get a 3/4, certainly you can get a half, but it's very limited. This takes a full face helmet, and you could stick your gloves in that inside, so there's a lot of storage compartment in this thing.
You rode up today, you had a nice buddy bag on the back.
Yep.
You can get this with pannier bags, so if you wanted to ride across Canada, it's comfortable enough. I think you could do that too.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is definitely a bike that is so versatile. You can do your weekend stints with the luggage that it can carry. Between a tank bag, a fanny pack bag, it still has the versatility to take all of that, take it off, and now go canyon racing with the best of them when it's in the stripped down version like this.
I'm glad you had so much fun.
I
It's
did.
nice to see you smiling.
Can I keep it for the rest of the day?
It's yours.
All right, thanks very much.
Nice job.
Hang in there, we've got plenty more experience still ahead. Next, Toni Sharpless pulls over during a day ride to take a closer look at her helmet, while Norm Wells and I continue our 100% Canadian adventure. Portions of this broadcast are brought to you in part by Honda Canada, Suzuki Canada, and BMW Motorrad.
Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience as we continue our coverage in Los Angeles, California. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now for this week's installment in The Ultimate Ride as we continue to celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary. Today, Norm and I are in Killaloe, Ontario.
Right. So for over a decade, Norm Wells of BMW Motorrad and myself have been packing up our motorcycles each fall and setting off to explore a new destination somewhere here in Canada, with the occasional trip further afield, south of the border. This season, given that it's our 150th anniversary of Canada's Confederation, Norm and I decided that we should pay tribute to this country by exploring some classic Canadian roads and fall sites, while celebrating some uniquely Canadian milestones. Day one of our Maple Leaf-inspired trip was jam-packed as we headed northeast out of Toronto using Highway 12 and 35 en route to the now famous and iconically Canadian small town, Bobcaygeon, before continuing northeast to another small town known as the mineral capital of Canada, Bancroft. From there, we continued further east towards Pembroke in search of Canada's sweet pastry treat, the beaver tail.
Well, Norm, here we are at Killaloe Station, just south of Algonquin Park, just south of the Ottawa Valley. As we celebrate our 17th Ultimate Ride, this is the end of day one. We're also celebrating the Canada 150, and I thought there was a lot of Canadiana here.
Apparently so, but I'm not too familiar with this place, so why don't you fill me in a little bit?
Well, Canadiana is closed for the season, but Killaloe boasts as being the birthplace of the Canadian beaver tail. The beaver tail snack, dessert, some people call it a meal. Unfortunately, it's closed for the season, so you're not going to be able to sample one. But yeah, this is the birthplace of the beaver tail.
Good to know.
They also have a really great community radio station, which is quite popular. And also back in 1969, one of Canada's first communes, hippie communes, was established right here in Killaloe. It's called Morning Glory Farm, and it's still operating to this day.
I think we might have seen it, or where they were when we did our Woodstock show a couple years ago. They were probably down there partying.
They might have been there. But this is Killaloe Station. This is where they have a festival every year of arts and crafts. And anyway, that's why I wanted us to stop here. It's very Canadian.
Thank you very much for the stop.
What about the roads?
Well, after lunch we took 62 North and made our way to Maynooth.
Yep.
Then we jumped on, turns into 62 East and made our way to Combermere. And that's where we started to look for these really small roads here, these 80s and 60s and 500s.
Yeah.
Interesting.
512.
512 is what we ultimately wanted to get to, but to get to it, we figured out pretty quickly that not all these roads are numbered on the signs. It's actually names of roads.
Yeah.
So you gotta be able to play with the map and the GPS and figure it out a little bit. But even if you get lost and ride around, it's not like you go too far, because every single road that we touched was just a beautiful road.
Yep. Yeah. Eventually we had to ask somebody the directions, and he was on a motorcycle and he had a grin on his face. But yeah, the roads up here, you know, you're just sort of getting your way now down into the Ottawa Valley as you're leaving the highlands of Haliburton. So fantastic roads.
And 62, you know, it's a big road. It's not a tight, twisty road like this, but I really enjoyed that today because it was high. It went high and low, and it was very mountainous. And you would just come across these lakes. There's a sheet of ice. There was just no wind out there today, and then the colors in the background. Just really beautiful ride on that road.
Yeah, this has been great. We're going to continue on up to Pembroke. We left Toronto at 8 o'clock this morning. This has been a good full day's ride, and I think you could really make a meal of this day.
Absolutely, and you know what? And we're a little bit tight on daylight at this time of year. So in the summertime, when you have a lot more time, there's all these other roads that you can explore. I mean, I've ridden in this area so much, and there's so many beautiful roads to ride. And just give yourself a 12-hour day to go from Toronto to Pembroke and enjoy everything it has to offer.
If not, get up here for the fall leaves. This has been an ultimate ride.
Or the beaver tail.
Next week, be sure to tune in as Norm and I turn left in Pembroke to grab a slice of the Trans-Canada Highway heading west towards the Big Nickel. Now, let's catch up with Toni Sharpless and her friends Mike and Michelle Bell in Origin8or, Ontario.
Toni, every season I get a new helmet, and this season this is a brand new helmet, and so this has been the first test drive, and I thought we should cover the helmet thing again because things just keep changing every year in terms of the technology, and I just really think it's important that people keep their helmets up to date. You know, replace them every, what do you suggest, 4 years, 5 years?
Well, and it depends how much abuse they've taken too. I mean, if it's fallen off of the seat of your bike, if you balance it on the seat of your bike, you know, it's not a good idea. So I would replace it sooner if it's taken some abuse or
fallen from any height.
Yeah. And even just for the amount of miles that you've done out in the sunlight, I mean, the sun and the weather can actually wear out a helmet as well. I mean, you know, we're talking a lot of exposure, but all those kinds of things play into why it's a necessary thing to replace your helmet regularly.
Yeah. Do you like to see a helmet flat down on the ground, or is it okay to hang it over the mirror or the handlebar? Best
option is flat on the base on the ground. If you put it on the mirror or on the end of the handlebars, you're ruining the EPS liner on the inside. And the EPS liner, for layman's terms, is like the styrofoam inside.
Right.
And if you compress that, then it's not going to be able to do its job when it takes a blow from the outside.
Right.
So you got to protect the inside as well as the outer shell.
Right. Okay.
Look after it.
Shopping for a new helmet, every manufacturer is a little different in terms of fit. You really have to try on a helmet, right?
Totally. They're all different shapes for all different shaped heads. So some companies will make a totally different shaped helmet for a different country.
Right.
So a North American fit is different than Europe.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then within that, there's a lot of different head shapes in North America. So you really need to try on your helmet, take your time, wear it around the store, and make sure that you have some assistance, you know, from a helmet expert to
Right.
help you pick out the right helmet.
Right.
It's imperative because I think that it's the most important piece of your equipment.
Wonderful. Well, it's great to get out. See, this is why you have to come out and ride, so you can have conversations like this. Awesome. Some great advice there on helmets. Thanks, Toni.
Up next, Jenn Martin says it's time to embrace the slow riding movement. Plus, we'll look in on the progress of this season's Yamaha project bike.
Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and it's time now to look in on our Yamaha project bike. This week, builder Rob Chappell, well, he's turning his attention to the bike's exhaust.
All this season, Rob Chappell, owner of Origin8or Custom Cycles in Oshawa, Ontario, will be tearing down for our cameras a brand new and thoroughly modern parallel twin-cylinder Yamaha in an effort of transforming a brand new FZ7 into a funky retro-themed street scrambler. Last week, Rob stripped the Yami of its futuristic bodywork, its 5-piece plastic molded tank, and the stock lighting system. Today, he's taking a closer look at how to replace the stock exhaust in an effort to get the right look for this build and perhaps improve the bike's performance.
So here we are, week 3. We're getting right into this build with the FZ07, and I've got the stock exhaust system here. Obviously, you've removed that. I cannot believe how much this weighs.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
So when you look at the stock bike, it was very futuristic, very angular, and this was certainly slung underneath like a very short pipe, very modern.
Yeah.
And now, coming back, I see you've got this fantastic Hindle exhaust system that's been created for you, and it's really got that flat tracker look.
Yeah, that was the goal. I mean, obviously in raising the front end and raising the rear, we wanted to get as much ground clearance at the bottom as possible. So, you know, making the pipe kind of swoop along the body line of the bike and follow the frame was paramount. So.
Now tell me about your trip up to Hindle. Did you have to draw this out or sketch this out, or did they know what you were going for? Did Scott know what you wanted?
No, actually, I kind of surprised Scott. I went up there and he thought, well, we're just going to use the exhaust system we made for the FZ07. I said, no, I want to do something kind of cool. And so he was on board. He's like, all right, let's tackle it. So what do you have in mind? And when I told him, you know, the angles I wanted, how I wanted it to kind of, you know, swoop around the body, follow the frame, and just kind of end at 12 o'clock, like on that rear axle.
Yeah.
He's like, all right. And he grabbed one of the canisters out and he says, this is the kind of can you're thinking of? I'm like, perfect. So he held it up and I said, okay, end it there and now build it forward.
Oh, wow.
And that's
So
kinda
reverse
how we-
engineered it.
Pretty much, yeah. We kind of just started with where we wanted it to end and then how we were going to flow around the bike.
So was he, I wasn't there at the time, but was he cutting and welding as you went along and tacking things together as you went along?
Yeah, not really as I went along. It was sending me actually pictures on my phone, like, what do you think of this and how's that? And I would say, no, I don't want springs, can you weld it? And he'd send it back and say, okay, how's this? And we kind of came up with this whole design, and it was really nice to work back and forth with Scott. So yeah, he really did a great job and made a couple trips up there to see his progress and kind of discuss it. And yeah, this is where we ended up.
I have to think, you know, holding this as I have been for just a couple of minutes now, I've got to think that's going to change just the character of this motorcycle in terms of power to weight ratio, ground clearance, right?
It actually, yeah, I mean, I would love to weigh the two of them when we're all finished, but certainly saved weight. Just the sound of it is incredible.
Well, I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, I know you're going to get a chance. Our goal is at the very end of this build is to take it back to Hindle, and Scott's going to put it on the dyno. We're going to do some tuning and make sure it's not just looks, it's about performance as well. So.
Well, so far the look is bang on. Looks great.
Great, thanks very much.
Awesome job.
All right, now that we've got you all fired up for another season of riding, stay tuned, because next, Shifting Gears segment editor Jenn Martin has some great advice on crawling along. Stay with us. Portions of this broadcast are brought to you in part by Honda Canada, Suzuki Canada, and BMW Motorrad. Welcome back to Motorcycle Experience. I'm Dave Hatch, and we'll wrap up our show now with Shifting Gears. This week, we're taking a closer look at mastering one of the tougher things to do on a motorcycle, riding slow. Here now is professional motorcycle instructor, Jenn Martin.
Jenn, this week I want to talk about riding a motorcycle slowly, because a lot of new riders and even veteran riders, turning the throttle and hitting the road, that's easy. A motorcycle will stay upright, it wants to go.
Yeah.
But what a motorcycle does not like to do is go slow. And I think we need to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It's a skill that gets lost or does not get practiced certainly enough.
Right.
You're talking parking lot situations, slow speed, traffic, stop and go traffic, that type of thing. You know, I constantly, you and I talked about it, I constantly see people with their feet out there, keeping that motorcycle upright, duck walking it. No, we need to know how to operate our motorcycle slowly.
Right, so let's go through some tips. One of the very first things that come to mind, the most important thing for me, eyes.
Eyes, yeah.
Right? So look where you want to go.
Look where you want to go, and if you're making a turn at slow speeds, you physically have to turn your head. You have to commit to the turn, because like if you turn your head and you look, you're still looking the other way, it's not going to work.
Right.
So the eyes go with the head. You turn, think of chin over the shoulder, not looking down.
Right.
Because if you look down, that's where the
That's where
motorcycle.
you're gonna go.
Yeah, that's where the motorcycle wants to
You will
go.
go where you look.
You do too. It's so true.
Riding through a parking lot very slowly, you're creeping along, the bike is not all that stable, and you grab the front brake.
Not a good idea. Yeah, we talked about it as like little motorcycle ballet. So I tell everyone, stay away from that front brake. It is not your friend at slow speeds. If you need to slow yourself down a little bit further, for control technique, use the rear brake. Slight drag on the rear brake.
Yeah.
It still allows you to do steering input.
Right.
Right? You're not going to do anything with that. You can just hold yourself back.
And then you got the magic clutch.
There.
That becomes your throttle at slow speed, right?
Absolutely. That in conjunction with the throttle. I mean, this is your best friend, the clutch. And a lot of people like just let it go.
Yeah.
And they're done with it. No, at slow speeds, you want that sweet spot of the friction point where the motorcycle, like the rear tire is engaging and the motorcycle is being pulled forward. You can hold it there.
Yeah.
And you can give it as much throttle as you want. And it's not the motorcycle's not going to tear off on you. You're in control. This is your control piece right there.
What are we doing with our seat?
You can adjust your body position to counterbalance when you're turning.
Right.
And this is a great bike to practice slow speeds on, because we talk about relaxed elbows. You want to be loose and not that death grip on your handlebars.
Right.
Yeah.
When we talk about the ballet, you loosen up,
Yeah.
you move your body, you shift your weight, you're moving around, and to do all of this, you really need to practice.
You really need to practice. I mean, it's a gorgeous day. It's a great time to get out in a parking lot scenario, an empty lot, and just practice these skills. You don't need to set up anything difficult. Just practice riding that motorcycle slow, turning your head.
Perfect. Great advice on going slow.
Going slow.
Going slow.
Slow it down, yeah.
Well, that's it for this week's program, folks. We're all out of time, but before we leave, I just want to remind you, mark your calendar for Friday, June 9th. It's our first annual Motorcycle Experience Film Festival. It's going to be a blast. We've got 3 classic films. We've got microbrews, food truck, demo rides. It's going to be a great weekend of fun. And then later on in September, don't forget Saturday, September 23rd, it's our 4th annual Wings Over the County. Go to our website, motorcycleexperience.ca, check it all out. And until next week, keep your feet on the pegs and your right hand cranked. Bye for now.